Okay, good morning, and we're about to get started here. Um, Unfortunately, Alex today is not feeling well, so I'm going to be doing this solo. Um, Today, we're going to talk about in our second edition of Open Office Hours with Justin and Alex is about the applications that we use to help our clients perform the cybersecurity risk assessments, as well as the tools that we use to talk about the applications to determine a lot of the questions. So just this week alone, I've had 3 different applications come across my desk. The most recent one is right next to me from Beasley. And I remember doing this with this client a year ago, and it was half the questions and half as detailed. So obviously over the last year, we know that it's going to be, they're asking a lot more and they're requiring a lot more of us. So as IT professionals, how do we determine the right coverages and the right information so we can accurately fill out the forms? So in today's lesson, I'm going to talk more about the tools that we use regarding some of this. So again, if you have any questions, please enter them into the chat and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay. Otherwise, I will just continue to talk and go through some of the tools today that we use. And like I said, with Alex being out, this will be a little bit shorter. Hopefully everything is okay and he'll be back in 2 weeks. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. So when we go through the applications, one of the biggest ones that we get asked right now is, are you doing employee training? So we have a firm, PIIprotect.com, that we partner with, and this provides your corporation 2 levels of training. Move this out of the way. So the first one is, this is a test company, is our company profile. This is a dashboard that allows you to see how many of your 800 score that you want to get annually are the companies actually using. So included in this program are 2 types of security training. A full-on risk assessment training. So this training takes approximately an hour and needs to be completed at least once a year. It goes through all the common questions about phishing and clicking links and how to determine what is real and what isn't real, not only over the internet, but also over the phone. The other area is what we call the micro trainings. So included in this product, PII Protect, it goes through and talks about common market situations. So today, a big one right now is the Ukraine war going on. That's a big cyber threat when it comes to phishing, scams, things like that. So they have a lesson on that. So we ask our customers to kind of go through and watch these micro videos. We get new ones come out every other week. They are done in 4K video, highly professionally done. It is not myself or Alex doing them. And they take about a coffee break's time to complete. So it's typically 5 to 10 minutes with usually 1 or 2 questions at the end of the little demo or the little video. And the nice thing about it is your managers back on the dashboard can see who's doing the trainings. You can create a little bit of competition between your team. So if you want to incentivize them to complete their trainings, complete their test, all of that other stuff, we can also check their passwords on the internet for the dark web to see if anything is out there that might have been picked up. We do have another tool for this. This one's a little bit suspect, but it's okay. It does give some decent information. We do have another tool. It also helps us with our policies and procedures. companies on their applications today need to have what they call a written information security policy. So we have some preloaded templates that we put in here that we've worked with local counsel to help develop that fall under the written information security policy. So the written information security policy is kind of a culmination of all these other policies folded into one, and they all kind of go hand in hand. This is where we set what our policies are going to be if we have an incident, if we're going to change our passwords. And this is important because if you have policies and procedures, they're supposed to be checked, followed, and reviewed. An insurance company is going to use this as, hey, they have the necessary things in place and they want to take IT security seriously. So this is one of our partners. It's called PII Protect. When we're doing another partner we have is Actifio. Okay, these are this company is responsible for helping us, and I don't have a demo, unfortunately, of it that can show because it requires a license. What it does is this scans your data looking for what we call PII or PHI. So in Pennsylvania, PII would be a social security number or EIN, or just 5 pieces of data related to a person: name, address, telephone number, occupation, household income, things like that are all considered confidential. And if we can get 5 of them, there's a good chance that we can kind of intercept and become a person that we open a credit card, bank account, something like that. So we got to keep that into consideration. Or PHI, which is more related to your medical records, HIPAA data, things like that. So if you kind of look at this sample here, they scan through and we can add a value to each record. So if it's a medical record or a financial record or a credit card, typically those records are between $65 and $75 per record. Cost-wise is kind of the market. So what we can do is when customers come to us and say, hey, how much coverage should I have? And usually my first question is of a prospect is, I don't know how much data you're storing. So we'll install Actifio on all their workstations and we'll be able to determine kind of what their exposure looks like. Just check to make sure there's no questions. Nope, nothing so far. We can go back to screen sharing. 1 second. Okay, the next tool we have is Lifecycle Insights. This company helps us with doing our assessment. So every year on the application that I have right next to me, it says, let me find it. Do you regularly, at least annually, provide cybersecurity awareness training, anti-phishing to all staff, and have a network vulnerability assessment and risk assessment completed? So what we do here is we perform our test. And then when we're done our tests, we basically can help our customers fill out these applications by doing a answer in this tool. So what we've done is they have a program where we can create these different categories. They have some pre-filled, and I can answer questions, add comments. So when I give a report to a customer at the end, it's in a very organized format that is either red for at risk, orange for needs attention, or green meets compliance. Okay. Just because something needs attention or at risk doesn't mean necessarily the customer's at fault or going to fail a vulnerability scan. That's the whole point of the scans. People are like, oh, I did a vulnerability scan and I'm in trouble. The answer is yes, but that's the whole point of the program, is to find weakness in your system. because the assumption is you're going to then add protections based on what we found. So for example, is your data encrypted? So there's different types of data, okay? Most cases when we're talking about data encryption and the applications don't do a good job, are your backups encrypted? Okay, or is your data encrypted? There's different types of encryption. There's encryption at rest, and there's encryption in transit. Most cases, the insurance companies are more worried about the encryption at rest. This is where, if someone was to steal or break into your office and steal your data, could they pay someone to exfiltrate that data out of the system? Could they take the hard drives out and put it? Or if I have a laptop and I leave it in a taxi cab, okay, could someone get to that data? So I'll talk about another vendor shortly about that. Do they have a data retention policy? Okay, so does the client actually have a policy where we only keep data for so long and then it's purged out of our system? I understand a lot of companies want to keep data for record purposes and things like that. Maybe you do it in cold storage, off your network. However, the longer you keep data, the more exposure you have, because now if you keep social security numbers or date of birth, and you have all these date of births and social security numbers of customers that are not customers, you're basically holding their risk and their information, even though they're not paying you anymore. So typically 5 to 7 years is a reasonable timeline. Some companies can get away with more, but we kind of go through these, and basically at the end of the day, they get a scorecard, okay? And they know what they need to do to improve their technology and their cybersecurity posture based on the information that we fill out. One of the biggest areas that we get asked on these applications, and it's usually one today that will deny coverage, is multi-factor authentication. Okay, so they want today, a password is too easy to crack. There's a technique called brute force, and unfortunately, as end users, we typically want to use the same password over and over again. So passwords are becoming less and less reliable. So a product like Duo, Google Authenticator, and there's a handful of others, okay? I have about 3 or 4 that I personally use. Add a multi-factor authentication option to the to an actual program. So when I log in, it says, okay, am I that person? And typically these can get answered one of 3 ways. It can send you a text message or an email. There's an application on your phone that you have to hit a little check mark that says, hey, you're accessing this, please acknowledge that it is you, and here is where it's coming in from. And it usually gives the city and the IP address. So we can hit check on that. And then the third thing is a randomly generated password or code. So on Google Authenticator, which I use the most of, I have about 15 or 20 different applications that use it. And every 2 to 3 minutes, the code changes. It gets read and then changes to a new number. So when I log into an application, I have to enter that code to be able to authenticate myself besides my own password, okay? You might see here it's talking about SSO. So a lot of programs and people don't want to have to authenticate to 10 to 15 to 20 applications. So using a technique called single sign-on with a product like Duo allows us to do that. So you would log into Duo first before any of your applications. And what that does is that goes through a multi-factor authentication. And then once you're through that portal, the Duo application will then link you to your other programs. Otherwise, those other programs will not launch. So you have to go through Duo first to get to your other programs. Another partner we do is Phishing Box. This is like one of our favorite things to do in our office each day, is where we can set up phishing campaigns. So This is where we open up a couple holes in your firewall and in the spam filters that exists. And we basically, on a regular non-planned occurrence during the month, we send out phishing emails, typically related to the job function. There's about 600 different templates, and some we can even create ourselves within this program. And it allows us to send out these tests to our customers to see who needs additional training, who needs additional reinforcement, how to spot a phish. Okay, included in it is a little Outlook plugin that if you do get one and you say report to phishing, it gives you a little like confetti screen pops up and says, congratulations, you passed your test. If it doesn't, then we go back to the manager or the business owner and say, hey, here's what we've seen. X number of users click links, X number of users filled in data and gave up a password, things like that. Because the ultimate piece is when the real attack happens, that your employees are fully trained. And that all comes back to that first program that we use. One of the last tools we use to fill out an application is Beachhead. So this is a encryption at rest tool. So we install this software and it allows us to protect not only computers, servers, but even mobile devices. So it allows us to encrypt the data. So that way, unless we have that magic key, no one is going to be able to exfiltrate any data off of the device that was left behind or got stolen or anything like that. So this is encryption at rest. There is more types of encryption, like encryption at transit. So if you're sending an encrypted email, things like that. But majority of the cases, the insurance companies are more talking about encryption at rest. Occasionally you'll see an application. I know the Travelers app has it. It'll ask about if you encrypt in transit, but it really depends on what kind of data you're sending. So there are just some samples of some of the tools that we use day in and day out during our cybersecurity program. The other pieces is that I'm getting on applications today is patching. So we have a tool that allows us through our management system to patch your workstation. So patching a workstation is very important due to the fact that you have to secure your computers on a regular basis. So this company is asking with 2 months, which I think is a reasonable expectation. Some companies only require 30 days, which I think is a little premature in today's market. We do need time to test and go through all the info. So 60 days is fairly reasonable. Do you scan an incoming email for malicious attachments and links? So a typical spam filter will handle those kind of tools. Some of the common ones are AppRiver, Proofpoint, Barracuda, Spam Titan, and Symantec. Sophos does have one, but they recently have been purchased, so they're some of the customers. But again, they're not caring what vendor you use as long as you're using a vendor. Are you using any end-of-life software or something on your network that's not supported? So that would be an expired operating system like Windows 7 or Server 2008. Are you using unpatched programs that have vulnerabilities or stuff like that? And then another big area on this one, it's a 4-question piece. Have you tested a successful restoration and recovery of your server within the last 6 months? Yes or no? Okay. If yes, what are the timelines? 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, greater than 1 week? And then the last part is, are your backups encrypted? So we're trying to find software today that implement the 3-2-1 model. So the 3, meaning they want 3 copies of your data, 2 copies, 1 locally, 1 off-site, and then 1 not connected to your network completely. So we really want to make sure that they have multiple copies, and if something was to happen, could you get it back, and how fast? Because that is going to determine your business interruption. So unless we have any other further questions today, because Alex isn't here, unfortunately, I just wanted to cover some of the basic tools that we use on a regular basis to complete our risk assessments, as well as our applications for our customers. Otherwise, we will be back in 2 weeks for another segment with Alex and Justin to hopefully answer more of your pressing cyber liability insurance questions. As always, you can always reach out to Justin and Alex via our website, thetechresource.com, and look forward to seeing you all very soon. Thank you.